Welcome to TechDaddies. I'm Thomas Dunbar here with Austin Tamayo and Andrew Reel. Today we're going to be talking about virtual reality. So what is virtual reality? Experts say it's a computer simulation that creates a 3D world to explore and manipulate. Today we'll take a look at where virtual reality is headed. We'll explore its role in society as well as its advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with Andrew and what he found in his research.
I looked at how virtual reality is being used to help people who have suffered strokes. It allows them to perform activities that usually can't be done during normal rehab. Stroke rehab is often very boring because of the repetition, but VR makes it a lot more enjoyable. It can improve arm function and other daily activities when compared to conventional therapy. Research is still in its early stages, but so far, it's looking good for the future.
Virtual reality is also being used in education. One study that stood out in my research involved students from kindergarten through the 12th grade. It found that using virtual reality games and simulations increased productivity in the classroom. Although the results were positive, there are negative aspects that are keeping virtual reality from becoming common technology in schools.
What are some of those negatives?
Well, first is the financial aspect. Virtual reality technology, for the most part, is incredibly expensive, costing $600 for an individual Oculus Rift headset. It may be financially feasible for private schools, but for the majority of public schools across the nation, it simply isn't possible. Also, there are physical and psychological discomforts from using this technology. Users in a study experienced strenuous posture demands, repetitive strain injuries, simulator sickness, disorientation, hallucination, and dissociation.
Thanks, Austin. Now here's a virtual reality expert's opinion on virtual reality technology and possible impacts it could have in the classroom.
What are your thoughts about virtual reality as a whole right now?
I think it's just an exciting time for the field because things like Google Cardboard are increasing access, making it cheaper for more people to get involved in the field. Which I think when more people can get involved for less money, it means that more people will be able to come up with interesting ideas. And they won't necessarily be driven by the market, but they can be driven by things like education and things of that sort. So I'm interested to see where virtual reality can have in the classroom.
What industry do you see virtual reality having the biggest impact on?
I think I see it having the most impact on education, just because it allows you to see perspectives that you wouldn't normally be able to see. And there are a lot of ethical implications that come with that. So I think it's the job of educators and people who aren't necessarily developing the technology, but who can still think about it critically, to really lead where those conversations are headed. So to make sure that people are developing things that aren't just exploring possibilities, but are doing so in an ethical and responsible manner.
Are there any drawbacks to virtual reality?
I think anytime that you're dealing with world-building systems, there's a danger of doing so uncritically. So the word reality, everyone's reality is entirely different. And I think the danger is thinking that the realities that people are creating are in some ways objective and not reflective of their own personal views, but the people making those technologies always have agendas, or if not agendas, they have preconceived notions about what the world means to them. And so when they've constructed these new worlds out of those realities, I think the danger is using those technologies in such a way that you just sort of buy into what they're selling, kind of. So I guess with increased access, if people aren't putting as much skin in the game and they're just using these things uncritically, I think that's where the real drawback is. So just always think is the most important thing.
So we're seeing virtual reality in education in the medical world. Where else can we find virtual reality? Sports.
Well, they're saying that VR may not change much for sports viewing. You've already got dozens of different camera angles, and the social aspect of watching a game with someone is great. If virtual reality became an experience for sports games, the users might not be able to interact with other people. The president of a VR studio says he can't see VR competing with broadcast coverage, so that's something that you might have thought would change with VR, but may not.
Interesting stuff. Now we'll take a look at people experiencing virtual reality for the first time. These are members of the Washington and Lee community using Google Cardboard for the first time. They're looking at the New York Times virtual reality app. The viewers watch videos ranging from a simple car ride exploring the ocean's depths to visiting faraway planets. After they experienced virtual reality for the first time, we asked follow-up questions about their experience and expectations for the future of virtual reality.
How was your first virtual reality experience?
It was a fun experience. Very interesting to kind of move and see the perspective follow what I'm looking at as the video goes on. Surprised by the detail that it showed.
I was watching the race car one. It was pretty cool. Started to get a little motion sick, so that's how you know it's good.
It was interesting. It wasn't very spectacular to start off with, but that was kind of the video. And then once it got more like interactive, or once it like progressed towards the screen, it was much more interesting. But it was cool once that happened.
In what industry do you see virtual reality having the biggest impact?
I guess the telecommunications industry, with FaceTime and all that being what it is now, it seems like that would be the next step in terms of throwing one of those on and actually seeming like you're talking to a 3D person rather than just a two-dimensional screen.
I think the video game industry. I can totally see the future of that industry moving toward this virtual reality stuff.
How will you personally use virtual reality in the future?
I'm just going to kind of see what comes out. I could see it being used for entertainment or concerts or avenues along those lines, but it's just going to be something fun to check out in different phases. I can't really put my finger on anything I want to use right now. I'm just interested to follow it after I saw what it can do.
I guess I can't really tell unless it becomes, accessible in some way that I already use technology. But again, I think in terms of FaceTime, if that becomes the next step, I think that would be a pretty cool application for it. Something I use quite a bit, talking to family and friends from distance.
Playing video games for sure.
So as you can see, virtual reality has a ton of potential in several different industries, but its users must be careful to avoid any negative side effects or consequences. We Tech Daddies have high hopes that virtual reality will be a force for good. That is a wrap for today. Thanks so much for tuning in to see the Tech Daddies.